I think it's okay to do something badly if you're in the process of learning. Okay? Don't put off something just because you don't know how to do it. You'll never learn. Dramatic effect there. You have to just say, screw it, jump in, do a, and I saw this really good, what are their names now? Doesn't really matter. The, they decided to move off grid. They gave up their, day jobs or whatever, bought some property. They have a little or a travel trailer that they're living in. And their plan was they thought they were going to build their house the first year when they got out there. And then they spent the first winter in their travel trailer. They put up a tent over the travel trailer to protect it and give them a little bit of a break from the wind. And then they built a shed on the end of the trailer, or the end of the tent, I guess, where they have a wood heater, wood stove. But their plan is to build a house using timber frame construction with timber that they're going to cut on their own property. Well, one of their, they built one little tiny battery shelter. I mean, 4 foot by 6 foot by 3 feet high or something like that. But they built it all using timber frame construction techniques, so they cut their own tenons and stuff like that just for the practice. I mean, they could have knocked the thing out in way less time had they just gone and bought some 2x4s and hammered it together. But they took the time to actually construct this thing based on what they had learned. And then they built a deck and made, I think it's cedar hot tub on the deck that's wood fired, so they can throw all their scraps of wood in there and burn them and heat up the hot tub. Well, most people would look at that as like, well, that's the stupidest thing ever. They wasted their time building a deck for a hot tub and they haven't even got a house. They're living in this little tiny trailer, right? But you got to look at it as an investment. They learned some skills, and in the process they also built up some confidence building this thing, and the fact that their deck holds up a whole hot tub and hasn't fallen over yet. Plus now they got a hot tub, which is nice at the end of the day. But that, now they can, every time they look at it, they're like, we built that. How cool is that? And I think that's kind of where I'm at now. I need to look at some of the stupid things that I've done here, but, building that little roof vent, it came out really solid. Hasn't torn off yet. Worked out okay. Making the screens for the windows, not rocket science, but they're working. I get less bugs now than I did before. Anything electrical I'm doing, building a little more confidence. I should have more confidence in that probably because I've done some electrical, low voltage. And then I look at, okay, I get down on myself financially because, crap, I never have any money. But I look at my truck, paid for. That was $9,500. I paid that off. Got ahead of it, paid it off early. Motorcycle, $4,500, paid it off early. The bus, about $4,500. Next payday, like a week from now, I'll have it paid off. Then I can work on paying off the land. I've been making land payments regularly, for 2 years now. Unfortunately, I'm paying the minimum payment, and it's going to take a freaking 40 years to pay it off like that. But we're getting there. It's my land. I can do what I want out here. I think my only time crunch, really, because it's June now, I really, really want to get serious about building something I can live in before it gets cold, because I don't want to live in the bus when it's cold. I think that's going to be a problem. But people have done it, and if it came right down to it, I mean, I've tented in the winter, so in a worst case scenario, I section off part of the bus and I heat that. I can do it. But back to what I was thinking before about, show notes or whatever. This isn't everybody's dream, and I know that, but most people who are going to do a bus conversion are planning to drive it. So I would point that out. Some of these things that I'm doing, you wouldn't do if you're ever going to drive the bus, that kind of thing. But the other thing is to give people permission, because there's so many really nice bus conversions out there, and they're like, oh my God, I don't have the skills to do that. The guy in New Zealand, his work is really coming out nice, and they've been living in it for 6 months already now, I think. And they're having some mechanical issues once in a while, but they drive it around, and, granted, compared to, even Texas, New Zealand isn't super big, but, if you're living in a bus and you're driving it, on weekends or weekdays, or, you drive it for a few hours, then you get to your next spot, that's really anybody would ever do anyway. You don't have to drive it 10,000 miles a year to be successful. So, I guess that would be the thing, is to give yourself permission to be real, to do what you can, learn the skills you need as you go, and look for, and this is the biggest thing I should probably take away for myself, is instead of chewing off something you can't handle, look for something small first and build the skills. So learn how to make a basically straight cut. If you absolutely can't make a straight cut, find a way to do it. I got a twitch in my shoulder. Perfect. Like learn, I cannot grab a circular saw and follow a line. It will not happen. I've gotten curves out of a circular saw that most people would think are impossible, because I suck that bad. But learning how to use, the framing square. When I realized that the thin side of the framing square is equal to the edge of the saw to the blade, I'm like, holy shit, I wonder if everybody else knows that. I bet they do. So I'm like, yay, I learned something, Now I can use my framing square to make my reference marks, and I can now hit that, within a quarter inch of the line. That's a huge improvement. I am excited about getting started on building my first dome. I figured out my sizes for what would be the best reference dome, I think. I got them wrote down, that doesn't matter anyway, but it'll be slightly higher than an 8-foot ceiling in the middle. So that means, because the top, it's more or less spherical. I should have, so if it's 8 feet high, it should be about 16 feet across at the bottom. I should have at least more or less 8-foot circle in the middle before I can hit the ceiling with my head. So if I have kind of a great room, and it would be kind of fun to go find a nice circular carpet, to put in the middle, and I could probably just pay somebody to make that, hem the edge and everything, but if you're on the circle, you don't have to worry about hitting your head, kind of thing. And the other thing I saw somebody do one time, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty smart. So you build your sphere, or your dome, but on the bottom section, you can go straight up instead of in or out by duplicating one tier, okay? Or you do, I think the instruction said, if you do an odd number, it'll actually start to come in again. So you'd have your ground your ground patch would be slightly smaller than your, 3 or 4 feet off the ground kind of thing. But you can also do a straight wall and then have the dome on top of that, so you'd have 2 or 3 feet. Another bird flying by. You could have a couple of feet of flat and then come up. And I'm thinking if I work that into my foundation, so maybe cinder blocks or something like that, so do a concrete ring the footprint of the dome. And realistically, I really need to make a dome first to accurately measure exactly, until I get confidence in the formulas, what the exact ground footprint is going to be, and then I could slide it out of the way, and then follow my dirt pattern basically, or something like that. But because you want to make the ring beam and the footprint actually the right size, and then put anchors in there that I could bolt the bottom down to. Once you're anchored in foundation and everything, then it's you're golden. So anyway, now that it's cooling off, it feels a little bit humid, and that's probably from the moisture that's in the ground coming out now. We got clouds. We got a full moon behind us. How cool is that? Right over the truck. Right on the front of the truck, yeah. Moonrise and sunset at the same time. That's probably the definition of why it's a full moon. That could be, huh? Now that I'm thinking about it, tempted to take a shower, because as the air temperature cools off, the water will feel warmer for a little bit. I really need a shower. I think I'll go do that. Let's go take a shower. Well, I'm taking a shower. You can do what you want to do. And we'll pick this up later. So, takeaway. Start small, pick easy projects. Sometimes you don't get a choice. Sometimes you just got to jump in, but look for ways that you can learn the skill you need. Don't think you have to be perfect. More experience, you learn ways to fix things that you make a mistake on. Most people aren't exactly perfect when they do things anyway, but you learn how to make it work even if you're not quite perfect. Do the best you can, stay with it, don't quit, you'll get there.